What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we are going to dive into the Open Master League and try out this Melmetal team. This Pokemon is a very interesting pick, one of the few Pokemon in the entire game with a very spammy Steel-type charge attack with Double Iron Bash. While this move is not super efficient because of the pacing with Thunder Shock and because of its great coverage with Superpower, it's a very good core breaker and a Pokemon that I love using right now in the current Master League meta. Let's get into the battles and see what this team can do. Alright, let's get right on into the first game of the day. Melmetal as our lead up against a Palkia Pokemon, which honestly we don't have a hard answer for across the entire team, but we do have a lot of neutral play here with Melmetal, as well as our own Palkia. Our Landorus is very happy to avoid this though, so potentially in the backline Landorus could put in some work. I'm going to go for a Superpower and see what our opponent wants to do. After I throw this move, obviously our attack and our defense will be debuffed. I want to clear that if I can, so I'm going to swap into my own Palkia and see if they're going to swap out or if they're going to stay in for just a second. They do throw a charge move here. I want to respect a potential spatial rend, which they do go for. That could one-shot us potentially, so it's a good thing we did shield up that attack here. But then they respond with yet another Dragon-type Pokemon. It's going to be a Dialga in the backline. Not exactly a Pokemon I want to see, but a Pokemon I might get a shield back from here if I go for an Aqua Tail bait. We don't quite reach another spatial rend, but we can at least get another Aqua Tail off here. We drew one shield, and we'll get a bit of chip damage against them, and our Melmetal should easily sponge all the energy this Pokemon could throw. In comes our Melmetal. We have energy, but I know I lose CMP, so no real reason to throw just yet. And they also do have some energy on that Palkia, so this endgame could get a little bit scary. I want to get an energy lead, though, with my own Landorus, see if we can start leveraging Sandsear Storms against the backline, and potentially using our energy on Melmetal as well to maybe win this game. In comes a charge move, likely just going to be an Iron Head, though, at this point. I'm going to no-shield and see if we can have any chance to win this game. Palkia comes in here. I'm going to now go for a full-on Sandsear Storm. I need to either get a shield or get this thing out of the way if possible. I have two very low HP Pokemon at this point, but if there's a Pokemon in the backline with a little faster pressure into our Landorus, we might have a little bit of play. Well, speaking of the devil, that might be one of the best Pokemon we could have seen here. The opposing Rhyperior, a ground-type Pokemon with ground-type fast move pressure. Our flying-type Pokemon here loves to see it, and since we have ground-type damage against them, their rock-typing is weak to our attacks, and also we can debuff them with our Sandsear Storms. Now, while I don't have a lot of HP left over on Melmetal, what I do have is a ton of energy at this point. I can go for a double Iron Bash here. Unfortunately, we will lose CMP, but it doesn't really matter because we are able to lock them in here with this move. Rock Record does get our shield, but this next double Iron Bash is going to be thrown. It will knock them out, and that Dialga in the backline has very little energy. We can likely reach another Superpower against them here in just a second. We're able to reach it, knock out this Dialga, and Melmetal able to close out this backline in a very tight game here. Superpower comes through and knocks out Dialga. GG to our opponent. All right, next matchup, you're going to see Melmetal as our lead up against the Kyurem-Black, a Pokemon which honestly is not the most comfortable matchup here, but we'll see what they're going to do. They do stay in for a second at the very least, so that means they are likely going to try their best to whittle this down, and maybe they have a weakness to Melmetal in the backline that we would rather use our Melmetal into. Looks like our Superpower will be thrown. Our opponent is going to actually let that go, which is fantastic for us here. I make a catch on likely a Fusion Bolt, which means that while it will do a lot of damage, it's not going to one-shot us like the Ice-type charge move that Kyurem can learn is going to, or would have been able to do. In comes a Zacian here to try to counter-swap into our Palkia. They built up a little bit more energy on that Kyurem, which is a little bit scary for us to see. But I know Aqua Tail will add up over time against this Pokemon, and potentially we can drain energy on either our Landorus or Melmetal, depending on the moveset of this Pokemon. Aqua Tail comes through. It will not get a two-shot here at this point, but it will put them pretty low at this point, to where it might be able to fast move them all the way down. Let's see what charge move they're going to throw. If this is a play rough, then I have no idea what their second move is. If it's a close combat, then honestly, at this point, I know that our Landorus is probably going to want to come in here and try to farm down. I tried to go in Landorus, though, to get the instant close combat, but they saw what came in. What is their other move? It is a play rough, unfortunately, so they have the perfect coverage for our team here. Not exactly what you want to see, but we're still in a decent spot where we have some energy, and we'll try our very best with our energy on Melmetal, as well as just a bit of energy and HP on our Landorus here to win this game. We shielded that attack here. We're going to go for a Sandsear Storm, try to either knock out this Pokemon or get a shield back in return. If they let this go, their final Pokemon is going to be locked in with a debuff, whatever it's going to be. It's going to be a Necrozma here, so honestly, that's totally fine by me. At this point, I can just lock this in with a permanent attack drop after the Sandsear Storm, get the shield, and then start throwing charges with our Melmetal. Another thing is, this Necrozma, unless we're running the Dark Pulse and Sunsteel Strike variant, does not have really any charge move pressure against us. I know they could have Outrage, they could have Iron Head. That is the most likely moveset that I've seen here in general in the Go Battle League. So if that is the case, I can survive the moves pretty easily, but I'm going to shield just in case, see what they're going to throw. And yet, is an Outrage. Since they threw that move, it's likely Iron Head as their second attack. They don't have a lot of charge move pressure into us, so while this matchup isn't amazing for Melmetal, it's also not that great for them. In comes our next charge move here, back-to-back Superpower just about. They win CMP, which is fine by me at this point. I'll throw the move after I am able to take this attack, so I'm not going to debuff my defense stat, and then take a debuffed Outrage. This Superpower might be enough to knock out. It might not. Let's see if they're going to shield or not. In comes the move. It does get no shielded at this point. Now I can just farm them all the way down and take the win in that game. All right, next matchup, Melmetal up into the Keldeo lead. Honestly, a bit of a tricky Pokemon for our whole team, right? We do have Thundershock, which is super effective as a fast move here. We're resisting the fast move from them as well. They're using Poison Jab as their fast move. But the superpower, if I have to throw it here, which I mean, I kind of do, right? I can't double Iron Bash a water type Pokemon. It's going to debuff my own stats. So I'm going to swap out and see what we can do with our Palkia as the safe swap. They have a move that they're going to throw, likely just a Sacred Sword here, which does do a decent chunk of our HP. But at this point, we have whittled down that Keldeo, and in comes the Dialga, which is not the worst case scenario necessarily. We'll see what we can do here. Maybe draw a shield, or maybe get a decent amount of damage if they let this go. They do let it go, which is, I guess, fine for us, but it does put it in an awkward health range where I can't necessarily go for a full Thundershock down against this. But what I'm thinking I might be able to do is drain energy on our Melmetal, and then come in Landorus to be able to have energy not only on this Pokemon, but also on our final Pokemon. Let's see what it's going to be. Roar of Time comes through. They're energy dry at this point. I can get a decent amount of energy lead here. We'll see what they are going to bring in. And in comes that Keldeo once again. So that Pokemon is a little bit annoying. What's even more annoying, though, is they just made a catch on their Palkia, which means now that Keldeo has even more energy, and this Palkia is going to be lined up into my Ground-type Pokemon. With that said, they're already going to be double debuffed before they can even throw a single charge move here. So while that was a good catch, they're also in a spot where this Palkia is going to be permanently debuffed, at least for a little bit too long here, where it's not going to get a lot of work against us. I can outpace him, I can shield, I can try to get as much damage as I can, and Melmetal, while it's not in a great position, might still be in a spot where I could win the game, depending on what they're going to do. I can go and just swap into our Melmetal here, because I know after the 2 debuffs, this is going to take almost no damage from an Aqua Tail, and they have Poison-type Fast Food Pressure on that Keldeo, they have Dragon-type Fast Food Pressure here. I can probably survive the moves and the Fast Food Pressure pretty easily. In comes the superpower, they let it go, it knocks them out, in comes our own superpower on our Melmetal, and since I do have energy on Landorus, our guaranteed win condition at this point is make sure I can land this move. While we are debuffed, if they let this through, I can either fast move all the way down, or maybe it's still just enough to knock out. Let's see, superpower comes through, it doesn't quite knock them out, but one more Thundershock is all it takes to win us that game. GG to our opponent. Next matchup, Melmetal into Rayquaza. That's a bit of a blast from the past. This Pokemon used to be one of the best picks in the entire Master League meta, but since the Breaking Swipe nerf, it's been kind of a little bit hard to use, I would have to say. And we see a safe swap of a Necrozma, a Pokemon which is not exactly a hard answer here to our Landorus. So what we're going to try to do now, though, is spam out our debuffs and see if we can farm them all the way down. They only threw after 7. I knew that wasn't going to be an Outrage or a Sunsteel Strike, so we were able to call that move, get a full farm down here, which means now if that Rayquaza comes back in, there's a good chance I can go for a Stone Edge, either draw a shield or potentially get a one-shot or at least come very close to it. In comes that Rayquaza, and as I was saying, we're able to survive long enough here to reach this Stone Edge. If they want to shield this up, they can be my guest. If they no-shield, that's a massive amount of damage. I can snipe them down with Palkia, and now it is a 3-on-1. Our opponent realizes the bad spot they're in. We're able to win that game. Next matchup, a Tapu Bulu up against our Melmetal, a Steel-type Pokemon into a Pokemon with only Grass and Fairy-type damage. A very good lead matchup for us, but honestly a little bit of a tricky counter swap here from our opponent. This Palkia is, once again, a Pokemon I don't have a hard answer to, but what I'm going to do here is go for a bit of a chip and dip with that superpower and come in with our own Palkia. I know while I will have to go down shields here, it's not going to be the end of the world because I'm able to farm this Pokemon all the way down, take down a tricky Pokemon for potentially our Landorus to see in the back line. And once both the Palkia and the Tapu Bulu are out of the way, I'm hoping that our Landorus is going to have a little bit more play. Alcatel won't do too much damage to this Tapu Bulu. They resist our Dragon-type and our Water-type damage, which does make Tapu Bulu one of the best answers to Palkia in the entire game. With that said, though, we're able to throw this attack and start chipping them down quite a bit. In comes the next Aqua Tail. Obviously, they will let that go, but the third Aqua Tail could come close to knocking them out. They are going to respect it. They're going to throw the energy before I can reach it. At this point, just let my Palkia go, come in with our Melmetal to absorb all the energy, and hope the matchup in the backline is not too bad for our Landorus. Thankfully for us, they did not have triple counters to Landorus here, but a Shadow Rhyperior is still a bit of a scary Pokemon, right? They're able to reach a charge move very quickly here, likely a Rock Wrecker, but it could also be a Breaking Swipe bait. They do full send the Rock Wrecker, we shield it up properly, and now we can start debuffing them here with our Sandsear Storms. While they are the Shadow Rhyperior, after a single debuff, they're not going to be able to one-shot us with a charge move, so this matchup is looking very good for us right now. All I need to do is instantly throw this attack, because even if somehow my Rhyperior, or rather my Landorus, does go down to this Rhyperior, we still have our Melmetal, which can easily finish this Pokemon off, saying we have both super effective superpower and double Iron Bash that we could just end up throwing to win this game. But yeah, Rock Wrecker not quite enough to knock us out here. We can just swap out back to our Melmetal. We'll take whatever they're going to throw against us here, because I know either Nature's Madness or Grass Knot will not one-shot us, not even come close to it. We can overfarm, have back-to-back charge moves, and make sure at this point that we have a double Iron Bash that will knock out this Tapu Bulu, and then a superpower once again for that Rhyperior in the backline. Double Iron Bash gets the knockout, in comes the superpower. Our opponent has no shields to hide behind, and it is a Shadow Rhyperior. This will easily be enough damage to knock them out. Melmetal taking out one of the most tricky Pokemon for it to see. Alright, next game, Melmetal up against the Palkia. So once again, a Pokemon that we just have to kind of battle with our whole team here. Or I guess not. I guess we're going to swap out here instantly to a Shadow Rhyperior safe swap. A good safe swap in general, but since I do have a very strong answer with our Landorus here, it's a good position for us to be in. Breaking Swipe comes through, we are going to shield it up, and we don't get debuffed, which is always fantastic to see, and they instantly throw a Charge Move here. I know at that point, that's just another Breaking Swipe. I can no-shield and overfarm depending on if they get a debuff or not. No debuff once again, which is nice to see. It's a 50% chance every single time you throw a Breaking Swipe to potentially get a debuff. I go for an Undercharge, knowing at this point that they are energy dry. I can get a bit more energy potentially for that Palkia if it comes back in, and at this point, Palkia is going to take a ton of debuffs and a decent amount of trip damage if they don't end up shielding anything from our Landorus. In comes the first Sandseer Storm. In comes the second one shortly after. Our opponent at this point will have to throw energy to knock us out. They are not going to be able to farm us down. Landorus is not a bulky Pokemon, but after 2 defense drops, or attack drops rather, it's going to do almost nothing with these Dragon Breaths. We're able to almost reach a move, but our opponent realizing that ends up throwing an attack here, and we will likely be able to farm this all the way down with our Palkia and use our Melmetal plus our Palkia to hopefully win against whatever's in the back. Well, I guess we see what's in the back line. It's a Heatran of all things, a Pokemon which is not exactly the most common pick here in the Open Master League, but it's a Pokemon that our Palkia loves to see. This pick is a very interesting one, specifically because our Dragon Breaths, they don't do a lot of damage, right? But Aqua Tail will basically one-shot them. It's not a very bulky Pokemon in the slightest. You can see how much damage our resisted fast moves are doing right now. Aqua Tail is a very spammy move, and they are forced to shield every single one of them that we're going to throw. Aqua Tail number 2 coming through and getting the shield. At this point, even if our Palkia goes down, we still have superpower on our Melmetal, so this matchup is looking fantastic for us. We're going to shield up, and it's likely going to be a bait. Yeah, they go for Magma Storm, but I can still Dragon Breath down their Palkia before they can get to a Spatial Rend, and at this point, why not? We'll go for the Spatial Rend. I don't even know if this knocks out, though. We'll have to see if our Palkia has quite enough damage in the tank. No resistance Spatial Rend. Honestly, not doing that much damage there. Aqua Tail would have been the more efficient play, obviously, but just for science, we were able to see it there. GG to our opponent. Next matchup, a very tricky lead. It's going to be the Landorus, probably the worst possible lead I could see here. I'm going to safe swap my own Landorus. Normally, I like to safe swap Palkia with his team, but saying that Palkia is my best Landorus answer, I'm going to instead swap my Landorus and see what they're going to do. Thankfully, they don't like debuff us or try to do any bait shenanigans with a Stone Edge before swapping out. Instead, they instantly come in with a Meloetta, a Pokemon which is very hard to access in the Open Master League right now. I know that there's data mines right now of potentially IV increasing items in the code. I would love it if that were the case. My Meloetta sucks, and I would love to use this Pokemon, especially with the recent Dazzling Gleam and Psyshock buffs. But right now, I don't have a good one. I guess all of my opponents do. I fight so many of these Pokemon here in the Match League, just in general. It's kind of crazy how many people actually have a good one. But once again, another charge move is coming through, likely going to be a Psyshock here. They are debuffed at this point, but it is going to be almost enough to knock us out. Stone Edge will be reached at the last second. Let's see if they go and try to call a Sandseer Storm. Stone Edge will knock out. Our opponent does try to call that I wasn't going to go for it here, and we're actually able to flip switch with our Landorus, which is fantastic to see, because now we have our Water type in this matchup, and potentially our Melmetal gets to avoid this Pokemon. And comes the charge move, almost certainly a Sandseer Storm comes through here, and while it does do a decent amount of chip damage, we have switch advantage in this game, and Xerneas is their final Pokemon. This is not the best Mono Fairy type Pokemon to see. I was hoping for like a Florges or something that we hard wall. We know that Xerneas does have access to a very hard-hitting move against Steel type Pokemon known as Close Combat, and because they do have access to that move, it could be a little bit tricky here depending on how they play out this game. Close Combat comes through. It doesn't quite one-shot us or anything, right? We're still in the yellow, honestly, so they can't fast move us all the way down, but they are already at a second Close Combat, but we do draw a shield, which at this point makes me wonder, do we want to shield this up? I do shield just to play it safe. I know I'm very close to a double Iron Bash, but honestly, I could have no-shielded too and just invested everything in Palkia, but at this point, I can now go for an Aqua Tail since they try to swap out and maybe try to catch a move on their Landorus, but we have an Aqua Tail ready to go. We're able to knock them out here with our fast move pressure and potentially reach an Aqua Tail against that Xerneas. My lose condition at this point is an Aqua Tail plus a Dragon Breath not being enough damage to knock them out before they can get to back-to-back charge moves here, but I know Aqua Tail is a very efficient move. It should be enough, despite our Dragon Breath being resisted, to knock them out before they can reach all the charge moves they need. GG once again to our opponent. Next matchup, a Necrozma in the lead. Honestly, not a great lead matchup for us here. I know I have a lot of neutral play with our whole team, right? Our Thundershocks, our neutral fast move pressure, our superpower as well is neutral charge move pressure, but because it does lower our stats, I can't stay in here. I'm going to swap out after I throw this move and see what our opponent wants to do. They're going to throw a charge move here. I know that was after 8 Shadow Claws, which is definitely an outrage worth of energy. Respect the move. I don't want to get one shot here, which is a good thing that I did, because I did actually go for the full-on throw there, and in comes the Palkia to respond to our own Palkia. I go for the Aqua Tail, knowing at this point they're basically forced into shielding this move. If they no-shield a Spatial Rend, that is a catastrophic misplay, and they are going to throw a charge move against us here, which is an interesting play to throw this early on. If it's a Spatial Rend, it knocks us out. Aqua Tail won't quite knock us out here, but it will probably put us in range where we can't get to an Aqua Tail, which is a little bit annoying, because once again, I don't know exactly how I'm going to knock out this Palkia. I'm going to take energy on our Melmetal pretty fine, but I don't have a lot of fast move pressure here, so I likely will have to throw a charge attack to knock this thing out. Aqua Tail, as you can tell, almost is going to two-shot us from this range. I'm going to play it safe, go for the double Iron Bash before they get to another one here, and potentially see what's in the back. I know at this point a superpower into that Necrozma would do quite a bit of damage. Unfortunately for us, it's a Zygarde in the back. I was hoping this Pokemon would go extinct in this new Kyurem meta, right? Kyurem-White with Ice Fang absolutely shreds through this thing's HP, but unfortunately I'm not running that on my team. Honestly, I don't really have a great Zygarde answer on my entire lineup here, so because of that, this thing is going to run through us. I think they also got a Crunch defense drop, exactly what we don't want to see at this point. Attack drop on their attack with our Sandsear Storm here is going to help us out a little bit, but Dragon Tail is still adding up way too much, despite how bulky this thing is. It also has a decent amount of attack, obviously, right? In comes the Sandsear Storm, and it's not doing anything. They're going to throw a charge attack here, and I know I can't win this game. The way that they can easily win this, they swap out, right? They are going to be able to clear their debuff, as well as force me to debuff myself against this Necrozma. I know one superpower from this range is not enough, so what I'm going to do instead is go for a double Iron Bash first, see if they're going to shield. They don't shield, but at this point, I do have to throw a superpower and see what we can do. But yeah, since they did clear their debuffs on that Zygarde, even if I do knock out this Necrozma, I don't think there's any chance to win. Just out of morbid curiosity, I want to see just how much damage is a debuffed double Iron Bash going to do. Let's throw it, let's find out. It is going to just plink off of the Zygarde. It does nothing there. That is honestly ridiculously bad. Double Iron Bash deserves a buff. Please, Niantic, buff that move. All right, next matchup, we're going to see a Rayquaza. Once again, we saw one earlier today. Very unique Pokemon, but because I have a Mono Steel-type Pokemon in the lead, they only have resisted fast and charging pressure against us here. I'm going to stay in, spam out these moves, and be happy our Landorus gets to avoid this. In comes a charge attack here. That was a very quick throw, just going to be a breaking swipe, but it can debuff our attack potentially. Let's see if they get lucky. They do, unfortunately for us here, which means now my double Iron Bashes. We've seen how few or how little damage this is going to do after a debuff. Into a Rayquaza, it will do a little bit more than into a Zygarde, but yeah, almost nothing here. Our opponent attempts a catch on their Necrozma. Bit of a slow swap out by me. Honestly, that might cost me in this matchup specifically, because I think with how slow I swapped here, I'm not going to be able to win the Zero Shield matchup if I don't throw another charge move. In comes a Sandsear Storm. I know this is going to come close to knocking him out, but because it's not going to one-shot them here, they might reach a second move against us before I can much up them all the way down. And I don't necessarily want to shield this, saying I don't really need Switch. I like keeping my energy and my options available, saying Rayquaza, while it is a bit of a tricky Pokemon to deal with, it's not impossible to deal with our Palkia, especially after the chip damage that we've got into them here. In the backline, going to be a Ho-Oh. I'm going to bait at this point that maybe I have Thunderbolt, maybe I have Rock Slide. They don't know, right? They've only seen double Iron Bash. We throw the move. We luckily do get a shield here, which I think at this point does just kind of secure us the game. We still have a lot of energy on our Melmetal. Not that it would go too far against a Fire and Flying type Pokemon, but because we do have our Palkia as well with a lot of energy and a lot of HP left over, we can just come in here and start Dragon Breathing everything down. At this point, I'm kind of wondering rather, is this going to do more damage than a Brave Bird, right? I think a Breaking Swipe would do a little bit less damage than a Brave Bird would to us, so I'm going to no-shield that attack. It is honestly a little bit precarious here. I know that we took a lot of damage from that charge move, but because we're taking Incinerates on our Water and Dragon-type Pokemon, I'm almost certain at this point that we're able to survive long enough to reach 2 Aqua Tails, knock them out, and win us this game. That Breaking Swipe did end up debuffing our attack stats, so we do need 2 charge moves to knock them out here, but we also have a ton of energy on Melmetal and a shield remaining, so this game is by no means going to be able to be winnable for our opponent. Aqua Tail comes through, knocks them out, and we're able to take the win in that game. All right, next matchup, Melmetal in the lead up against Palkia, one of the most common Pokemon here in Master League. Honestly, it's probably a bad idea to be this soft to Palkia because it's such an annoying Pokemon if you don't have a hard response to it. With that said, though, we're going to try our best once again to just chip them down, right? Go for these superpowers, maybe swap out to our own Palkia, maybe one day catch an Aqua Tail when they try to instantly throw after my debuff, but no, they don't end up ever going for that. Now they're likely going to go for Spatial Rend, but they could also bait us here. Let's see what our opponent is going to do. In comes an Aqua Tail bait, fantastic bait by our opponent, and in comes Keldeo. Man, does everyone have these mythicals at this point? Keldeo's everywhere. Meloettas are also pretty common right now in Master League. I don't understand how these people have these Pokemon. I am very jealous, but unfortunately, since we are running Pokemon kind of weak to these picks here, it's going to be an uphill battle to try to win this game. Another Sacred Sword going to be thrown. It's not going to knock us out from this range, but it will put us pretty low at this point into range where Fast Food Pressure could be enough to knock us out. I'm going to go for this Spatial Rend. I know it will either knock them out or draw a shield. Our opponent is going to respect it, and now I can swap into Melmetal, go for a superpower, and hopefully this is enough damage to snipe down all of the energy that they have remaining. It is going to land, and they do get knocked out here. Fantastic news. But then in the backline, going to be a Landorus, a Pokemon which, while we do have double Iron Bash, which is neutral, we are debuffed. We are a Steel type against a Ground type. This is not a great spot to be in. Thundershock's doing almost no faster pressure here, and they're going to get a decent amount of energy from this matchup. Another double Iron Bash is going to be thrown, though. I think at this point, if I can reach 2 more double Iron Bashes before getting Mudshot down, I should be in a good spot, but it is looking like they are committing to a full Fast Food Farm down, which is honestly a little bit concerning. They also have a lot of energy left over on that Palkia, so if they do end up getting that full Mudshot down, which they are just barely able to do, I'm not sure that we can win this game unless we get a catch. They have basically back-to-back Stone Edge here. I'm going to try our best to call them to instantly throw. They don't throw the move. They go for a very patient Mudshot down. And now, because of that, they're going to not only land a Stone Edge against us, but they also have that Palkia once again with an Aqua Tail already loaded. All they need to do at this point is land a single charge move against us. In comes another Stone Edge, and because we don't have a charge move, I can't even call the combo play right now. It's going to come in, the Palkia is going to snipe us down, and unfortunately our Landorus not quite able to reach a charge move here to knock out this Palkia. Aqua Tail comes through and knocks us out. GG to our opponent, very well played. Next game, going to see Melmetal into Kyurem-White, a Pokemon which is on paper a good matchup for our Melmetal. We have a lot of super effective charge attacks. We are resisting all of their fast food pressure here. Looks like they are on the Ice Fang variant. I've seen quite a few kind of experiment with Dragon Breath as well, but Ice Fang is going to be, I think, slightly better for us just because it's not going to be able to do a lot of damage with those one-turn fast moves. In comes a charge move, though, and this is where it gets a little bit dicey, right? This Kyurem has access to Fusion Flare, a super effective Fire-type charge move, which is very efficient, and despite taking resisted, quote-unquote, fast move pressure here, you can see these Ice Fangs are still adding up against us. Superpower comes through, doesn't quite knock him out, but we can now go for a Dragon Breath Snipe down against them and see what they're going to bring in. Another dragon in the backline, honestly not too surprising here. Seems like a lot of double, maybe even triple dragon teams just in general right now in the Go Battle League. So because of this, I'm going to try our best to once again go for a bait and see if we can reach a spatial rent here in just a second. We're going to reach for it. Our opponent, though, they get a full farm down just barely before we're able to reach it. Honestly, kind of tragic stuff here. I would have loved to get a shield from this Pokemon, but in comes our Melmetal, and they're going to let us actually throw a move before they're going to throw an attack against us. Kind of interesting stuff here. They have a lot of energy. It's almost a guaranteed shield, or I guess they swapped out. I didn't even see the catch there, and in comes their own Necrozma. I think at this point we are in a decent spot, but because they do have access to potentially Sunsteel Strike or Outrage, I have to shield up first and see what they're going to throw. In comes the Outrage. We do probably shield it up here, which is fantastic to see. We have a lot of energy, though, across the board, right? I'm one fast move away from a Sandsear Storm. I also have a decent amount of energy on our Melmetal, so this Dialga in the backline is going to have a lot of work to do if they want to win this game. In comes the Sandsear Storm, and I think just landing this move is going to instantly win us this match. They could have potentially gone for a Roar of Time to snipe down all of our energy, but if they did that, there's a chance they wouldn't have enough energy for our Melmetal, so they were trying to bank up a bit more energy. Unfortunately for them, they still have to throw the Roar of Time, and that is a lot of wasted energy here that now I can go for a Superpower, knock out this Dialga, and take the win in this matchup using our energy very efficiently here in the backline. Alright, next game, we're going to see Melmetal up against a Keldeo, a Pokemon. Once again, I have no idea where these mythicals are coming from, but it's not amazing for our whole team. Thundershock, once again being super effective, doesn't really look like it here, right? It's not really a fast move meant to do a lot of fast move pressure. It's really just going to generate a lot of energy here for our charge moves. In comes a Sacred Sword. It is super effective against us here. I'm at back-to-back superpowers. In comes the first one. Let's see if our opponent will respect this or if they will let this go. It could be a Thunderbolt, but our opponent does not think that I have that move, which I guess is fair enough. I don't really see too many Melmetals running Thunderbolt in this day and age. But with that said, in comes a second superpower. We're going to see what our opponent will do and maybe try to catch a move. I guess no. We're going to get, our Melmetal is just going to get sniped down by a Sacred Sword, which is not ever great. But it's still fine, right? We've neutralized a Pokemon, which is a little bit tricky for our Landorus. I can go for a Mudshot down now, get a ton of energy against the backline. In comes our own Landorus, and at this point, I'm kind of wondering, why would you opt to be in this mirror match here? Unless you are just very scared of Landorus in the backline, maybe I should save this Pokemon just in case we do need it. Not only did they opt into the mirror match, though, but they shielded instantly on a Stone Edge. That means they must really be scared of our Landorus right now, so I think keeping it alive could be our best play. In comes a Stone Edge from them. They don't bait us, which is always great to see. In comes another Stone Edge from our own Landorus. Let's see if they want a double shield. No, they will let that go. And at this point, I'm going to try to catch a Stone Edge on our Palkia. We go for the catch. Luckily, they do end up throwing here right when I thought they would. If this is a bait, good on them, but no, it's a full-on Stone Edge. It does a decent chunk of our HP, and in comes our opponent's Necrozma. This Pokemon is a very interesting pick, just in general, but it's not a Pokemon that is too good into Palkia. I mean, they can knock us out here with Shadow Claw, Fast Move Pressure, potentially, but not before getting to another Aqua Tail, which means now our own Landorus in the backline might be able to win us this game just by spamming out charge moves. Aqua Tail likely will draw their shield here, which means now I can land Sandsear Storms and Stone Edges against whatever I want, but they do have a ton of energy, which is a little scary. I get denied a turn 2, that is never good to see. I'm going to call an Iron Head or a Dark Pulse bait. Our opponent goes for the Iron Head, we do survive that. Now I can just shield once farm all the way down and go for a Stone Edge up against their own Landorus when that comes back in. One turn lag, kind of making things a little bit dicey here at the end of the game, but because we're able to be patient and make the right call, we were able to win it there with our Landorus in the back. Next match, I'm going to see a Meloetta, this time into our Melmetal in the lead. Another mythical Pokemon. I'm telling you, these Pokemon are everywhere right now. And the thing is, you can just see how broken Meloetta is in this matchup, right? We are resisting its fast food pressure. We are resisting every single charge move that this thing has, unless they were on like Thunderbolt. But Thunderbolt is not a move that you see often. Normally it's going to be Dazzling Gleam and Psyshock. And because this Pokemon has just such efficient moves here, and Melmetal has such inefficient moves, they're able to keep up in damage here and just basically neutralize one of the best answers, quote unquote, to this thing in the entire game. Melmetal is able to just outpace here, though, so it is always going to win this matchup, but you're going to see it does get pretty close here. Another double Iron Bash will be thrown. Our opponent very likely will just let this go. Shielding a double Iron Bash never feels great, and Meloetta, the longest matchup goes, is not going to be able to flip this, so they do let that go, and once again, in comes another Psyshock. And this is going to put us into the red, right? We're basically on even HP with his Meloetta right now. I just want this thing out of here. It's already put in way too much work this game. Instantly throw the double Iron Bash. Our opponent likely will let this go, and we're able to win the lead, although not by a very big margin. In comes a Shadow Rhyperior in the backline, and then a Dialga, so the endgame here could get a little bit dicey. I know that we do have access to our Landorus, which is good against both of these Pokemon, but our Palkia is not that great into either one. In comes a shield on the bait. Our opponent didn't want to risk getting another charge move thrown against them. They end up throwing a charge move against us. Very happy to see that, because at this point, I'm able to now outpace this Dialga to a Sandsear Storm. And if they shield this up, they can be my guest. They're going to be down 2 shields to 0 at this point. And if they no shield, then our Landorus is just going to easily be able to knock out that Rhyperior in the backline. They do end up shielding, which is, I think, the right play at this point. Not that they really have too much of an option right now. Ironhead will be able to get our final shield, or our first shield, rather, and now Rhyperior is going to come in to try to get our final shield. And comes a charge move. I'm going to shield up just in case they do full send a Rock Wrecker. They do go for the Breaking Swipe, though, which is obviously not going to knock us out, and they didn't get a debuff, which means I don't even have to worry about clearing debuffs. I can now go for a Sandsear Storm, knock out the Rhyperior, and I'm almost at another one. Dialga used all of its energy earlier, and our Landorus is able to get a nice little endgame sweep here in the backline. Sandsear Storm ends up landing, knocking out Dialga, and taking us the win in that game. So yeah, this team was a very fun one to use. I know there were a few tricky matchups, right? We saw the Palkia was a bit of a tricky Pokemon to deal with this team, but it's very much winnable, right? We were able to climb quite a bit as well today. I was down in the low 2700s at the start, over a 100-point climb using this team. Melmetal is honestly pretty underrated right now. I know that it's a Pokemon that does take a little bit of getting used to if you want to try to make it work, dancing around with superpowers and using very inefficient moves like Double Iron Bash, but it's a great core breaker and a lot of fun if you have one, so I would definitely recommend giving it a try. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the battles and you want to see more content like this in the future, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.